And of course, for the first time in the 2016 presidential campaign season, we've finally seen all 5 leading Democratic candidates face off in a debate. This was last night in Vegas, and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was there along with Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, former Virginia Senator Jim Webb, former Rhode Island Governor Lincoln Chafee, and former Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley. They faced off, and CNN's Anderson Cooper was the moderator for this. And it's, he started the night by asking all of the candidates how electable that they think they are. And for Bernie Sanders, that meant having to defend his stance as a democratic socialist.
What democratic socialism is about is saying that it is immoral and wrong that the top 1/10% in this country own almost 90%, own almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. That it is wrong today in a rigged economy that 57% of all new income is going to the top 1%. That when you look around.
Do you think that explanation is enough to get people to vote for a self-proclaimed socialist?
Yeah. I think a lot of people are that's an appealing message because the middle class is suffering right now. However, I think when you take a look at the books and you see his tax framework, I mean, he's talking about a 75% tax rate for those income earners. I think it's above.
But is that the marginal tax rate? That's on like the last dollar you earn.
75% of your tax. I believe it's fairly low income. I don't want to say low income, but it's not like a 200,000 above or $1 million above. I believe it is middle class. And when you think about that, how much of your taxes would go towards government and the system, I think a lot of people would reject that. But I don't know that they're looking at the details right now.
A lot of people are just hearing him say, the rich folks out there are going to be paying a lot more in taxes than they do now if I'm elected president. And as you said, that's appealing to a lot of people.
And when people hear democratic socialists, they're like, socialists? Yeah. But when you hear them just say, no, it just means that the system we have now is skewed and it's rigged against you. Then people are going to go, oh, well, then maybe this guy is at least worth listening to. But I still think that's his big challenge of ever being elected is being a self-labeled democratic socialist.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think that's going to be his biggest challenge.
Everything is about marketing. And as you project an image that people are going to identify with one particular mindset, it's a little difficult to overcome that. Right. He set himself up not for defeat, but for a challenge right off the bat.
But he can influence the debate, and that's what a lot of politicians do when they run for president. I may not win, but I'm going to steer the debate into things that I want to talk about. Or things that you don't want to talk about. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was later asked about the investigation into her email scandal. Now, she described it as a partisan probe designed by Republicans to lower her poll numbers, and that we should instead be focusing on issues like income inequality. Bernie Sanders then weighed in, and instead of going after Clinton, he came to her defense in what might have been the quote of the night.
Let me say something that may not be great politics, but I think the Secretary is right. And that is that the American people are sick and tired of hearing about your damn emails.
Thank you. Me too.
Enough of the emails. Let's talk about the real issues facing America.
I think a lot of people probably agree with him on that one. I did wonder for just a flash there if maybe he's prepping to maybe be her VP candidate if she gets a nomination. But who knows?
That's interesting. Well, I think what's kind of interesting is when she talks about the partisan probe designed by Republicans to lower her poll numbers, that's the exact same thing that she said when the Monica Lewinsky scandal was going down. She called that a vast right-wing conspiracy. So to me, that's kind of like, you're going back to that well again and over again. And that's kind of a pat answer for anything related to any sort of scrutiny whatsoever. And this is an FBI investigation, by the way. I mean, the FBI is investigating her email.
But unfortunately, the right has actually given credence to those types of things when we have heard them say our design is to have Obama be a one-term president, that they use they use politics to influence policy. And
politicians, they use politics for everything.
Absolutely, but when they're silly enough to be caught on camera saying these things, it does undermine their position. And now there's a staffer who worked on that investigation who's come out and said that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, but if you have the FBI involved, which is independent party, there's no partisan there, then you have to take a look at it. There is some credence to that.
Well, the FBI certainly should be involved.
But for her to say that it's part of the right wing again,
investigation from Congress that I think she's referring to, not the independent law enforcement investigation, the political investigation run by members of Congress coming out of the House and Senate.
Is that not all the same?
No.
Yes, it is.
I have to
The
agree.
FBI investigation is the same as what we're talking.
No,
That's what we're talking about, is what the email server.
But there's a political investigation and there's the investigation done by the FBI.
How do you know what she's talking about? She
Because
doesn't say
she's referred to it in the
investigation.
past.
I know, but that's still no different than the FBI is
Well,
investigating.
you want to go
this.
back
They're
to what she
independent.
says and quote things that she said in the past 20 years ago. When I want to hold up some of the words that she says 2 months ago,
Which is exactly
you
what
wanna
she
dismiss
used
it.
20 years ago.
But
You
it
see what I'm
all
saying?
goes back to, does this need to be the focal point of what people are talking about
No,
when
but
you're
it's
looking
good
at the
TV. Let's
Democratic
keep arguing.
candidates?
And
It's debate. It's
You
debate.
bought
Keenan.
Like, separate,
It's
come on now.
debate, Keenan. Debate, Keenan.
All right. Well,
I think that's where Bernie's crazy like a fox, because he was able to separate that from Hillary and make it a
right.
Republican issue.
Yeah, I agree with that.
after the break, we'll hear what the candidates say is the biggest threat facing our country. But first, here's a live look over Southfield on this Wednesday morning. Cloudy skies, a couple of sprinkles now in Ann Arbor. I'm looking at one of our cameras. When we come back, we'll talk about how long the gray skies will last. Stay with us.